No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of Friday Night Smackdown. I have the hiccups. We're live, pal. Smackdown this week from the Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut. I think Connecticut. Wow, this is going to be an interesting stream. I got the hiccups. So I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Much appreciated. The show must go on, hiccups or not. Anyways, let's get down to it. It must be this Coke Zero sugar that's causing me problems. I need to try it first, right? Okay, let's get into the recap. We kicked off the show with Paul Heyman in the ring for a promo. By the way, before I get to this promo, Walter Cruz sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Walter. He was at the show this evening. He said, No DQ Galaxy, like and share the video. Say yes to No DQ. Hashtag stick to my shtick. I won't be in the chat. Still here for dark matches, but had to do my shtick. Much appreciated, Walter. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoy the dark matches. Thank you for sending in the super chat. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. Says, today in history, 2003, we lost Mr. Perfect less than a year after he was fired for the plane ride from hell incident. I remember that day. I remember going to Monday Night Raw. It was a Monday night at the Staples Center, and they had the local radio station outside the arena. One guy was talking, one of the DJs, and he said, RIP, rest in peace, Mr. Perfect. And I was there with good old JM, Jeff Meacham. We were like, what? Keep in mind, this was 2003, before you had social media, before you had the smart devices. You did not have that instant internet access. Somebody would have to call you or text you. But yeah, back then, like, word did not travel quite as fast. So we were not sure what was going on. And we got into the arena. The show was starting and the graphic popped up. And that's when we knew for sure that he had passed away. Very shocking. So I definitely remember that. Mr. Perfect, all-time great, in my opinion. Just a great character, great wrestler. Classic matches with Bret Hart and so many others over the years. And he even brought entertainment in WCW with the West Texas Rednecks. Great stuff there. Anyways, back to SmackDown. His name is Paul Heyman. They showed footage, by the way, from last week setting up Sami Zayn challenging Roman Reigns for Elimination Chamber. Heyman said he has a bunch of spoilers. Ever since him and Brock Lesnar ended The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak, he has nothing but spoilers. He said Sami Zayn is not there. And as far as Cody Rhodes is concerned, it could not be more personal because the championships are part of the Island of Relevancy's centerpiece. Without the titles, there is no Roman Reigns. Now, as Heyman was talking, Sami Zayn showed up right behind Heyman. Sami Zayn assured Heyman that he wasn't going to hurt him. Zayn said that Reigns' days as Universal Champion are numbered. He left the bloodline. Jey Uso walked out and said it's only a matter of time now before Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso leave as well. Zayn said it's a little bit creepy the way that Heyman looks at Roman Reigns and told Paul Heyman that the bloodline is in fact on its way out. This was a good segment, of course. Paul Heyman always delivers. Sami Zayn did great here to continue this storyline. Nice start to the show. Next up, we had Hit Row versus the Banger Bros, Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Hit Row had complained to Adam Pearce that they were not prepared for Braun Strowman and Ricochet in the tag team tournament. So Adam Pearce decided to give them the Banger Bros, the team they were originally supposed to face. Now, this was basically a squash match. Drew McIntyre took down Adonis with a Glasgow kiss, and Adonis did manage to avoid the Claymore. Sheamus tagged in. Top Dollar tried to come in with a cheap shot, but he got the beats, like 20 of them from Sheamus. And Sheamus hit white noise to Adonis. McIntyre hit the Claymore to Top Dollar. And then Sheamus hit the bro kick to Adonis. 1, 2, 3. Banger Bros win. Yeah. Hit Row. I think the experiment is over. I don't know if Triple H is going to do the kind of cuts that we got during the Vince era, but I feel like these guys, their push, it's kaput. Which, I mean, I'm not really complaining. They just were not catching on. So it is what it is. Sometimes things just don't work out. We had a vignette that played after the match from the Viking Raiders. And basically, a match has been set up for next week's show in Montreal. Banger Bros versus the Viking Raiders. And I agree with building Nexus. Hit Row, they have not been the same without Swerve. Swerve was really the star of the group, bottom line. I feel like Swerve was the guy that they were pushing, and Hit Row was basically him having his own faction. That's what it was. Caleb putting Hit Row on NXT, I mean, no point. They were already there. They had their time. Like, it just would be a step backwards. And yeah, some people do it like Apollo Crews, but you have to focus on the new people. And if the guys get the opportunity on the main roster and it doesn't work, at some point you have to make some difficult decisions, just the way it is. But, you know, there's always need for enhancement talent. So maybe Hit Row will stick around in some fashion. Now, TJS has an interesting question. First of all, he wants to know WTF about Bray Wyatt in a dark match. Spoiler alert, Bray Wyatt did not appear on this show. I'm wondering if they're just waiting until after Elimination Chamber to establish a program with Wyatt for WrestleMania. And should Gunther break Honky Tonk Man's record? Is he getting Ambrose U.S. title syndrome? And Coke Zero better than regular Coke? Agree? Yes. Coke Zero is better than Diet Coke, better than regular Coke for sure. As far as Gunther goes, depends. If the right opponent comes along to beat Gunther, now, will Sheamus get another crack? Will Drew McIntyre be in the mix for a triple threat? We'll see what happens. But if the right opponent comes along, then I don't think they should bother trying to break that record. But if nobody else is ready, then yeah, have him go for the record and beat it. Why not? Moving on here, we had Jimmy Uso backstage trying to get a hold of his brother Jay for the tag team title match. He was unsuccessful. Paul Heyman came in and wanted to know why Jimmy did not help him when Sami Zayn was out there. Jimmy said he's been busy trying to get a hold of Jay and even asked Paul Heyman for help. Paul Heyman, of course, declined, said Jimmy's on his own. And Jimmy basically just was hoping that Jay would show up in time for the match. We had another squash match. We had Lacey Evans basically making short work of an enhancement talent. and she refused to break the Cobra Clutch afterwards. I do not care about Lacey Evans at this stage of the game. I'm like, whatever. This is just a waste of TV time. Like, come on now. I'm over it. And then backstage, we had Adam Pearce with Sonya Deville. Sonya is always complaining about something. And speaking of complainers, Chelsea Green showed up, and Adam Pearce put them in a tag team match. More on that in a few moments here. We had the tag team title match, and sure enough, Jimmy Uso did arrive by himself, but Jay showed up at the last minute, coming through the crowd, got in the ring. Crowd popped big for this, by the way. And man, it's going to be great when Jay turns, because the fans are so much into Jay right now. Jay and Jimmy hugged, and we had a lengthy tag team title match here. Early momentum for Braun Strowman and Ricochet. Usos had to regroup for a bit. They worked over Ricochet for a while. Strowman got the hot tag, cleaned house, did his shtick, and then Jay managed to hold the rope down, which sent Strowman to the outside. That gave the Usos a little bit of the advantage for a bit. Jay hit a top rope crossbody, which Strowman kicked out of. Hit a super kick, but Strowman fell into Ricochet. Ricochet back in, and Strowman hit the running power slam. Ricochet came off Strowman's shoulders, and Ricochet went for the cover on Jimmy, but Jay pulled Ricochet to the outside of the ring. The crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." They were really into this. And then Jay ducked Strowman's attempt at the Strowman Express. Strowman went over the table. You basically know the end is coming at this point. Ricochet hit the shooting star press to Jimmy Uso. However, Jay had tagged in blindly without Ricochet seeing it. And as soon as Ricochet hit the move, Jay Uso came off the top of the Uso splash and got the win. So yeah, really, really good match here. Easily the best match of the show, even better than the main event as far as I'm concerned. More on that in a few minutes. We had Natalya come to the ring for a promo about Elimination Chamber, and she had some words about Shayna Baszler. Unfinished business with Shayna. Of course, Shayna was the one that broke her nose, took her out for the first time in 15 years. And she basically called Shayna Baszler a knockoff version of Ronda Rousey. A cheap knockoff. And then Shayna arrived. Shayna said she's sick and tired of people dismissing her accomplishments. She was fighting before Ronda Rousey. She won titles in WWE before Ronda Rousey. And then all of a sudden, you say her name 3 times, Ronda Rousey herself shows up. First appearance since losing the SmackDown Women's Championship at the end of the year. Ronda got in the ring, and then Shayna took a cheap shot at Natalya. Ronda Rousey helped out her longtime friend, 2-on-1 beatdown. Shotzi ran down to try and make the save, but she got overwhelmed, and Ronda and Shayna stood tall to end the segment. They did announce a tag team match with these ladies for next week's show. Looks like we are, in fact, getting Ronda and Shayna as a team heading into WrestleMania, which is fine. You know, Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey could have been a huge match, but I think this will definitely help elevate Shayna Baszler and hopefully elevate the women's tag team titles, because even though Io Sky and Dakota Kai have been a solid team, they haven't really done a whole lot as champions. And part of the problem is you just lack a solid division, quite frankly. We then had Jey Uso running into Sami Zayn backstage. The plot continues to thicken. Sami welcomed him back and said what Jey did at the Royal Rumble, walking out, meant the world to him. And Sami said that they are on the verge of doing something that he feels deep down Jey has wanted to see for a long time. He is going to finish Roman Reigns. Roman is going down. And said that Jey does not have to go down with the ship. Sami said that he does acknowledge Jey and offered the fist bump. Jey did hesitate a little bit, but then accepted, gave him the fist bump, and all appears to be right with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso for now. And then we had LA Knight backstage, asked about the pitch black match. He had no comment. He said he's not thinking about that. It's the past. He's moving on towards the future, which is him. And basically, he's got no storyline right now, but we need to be reminded that he does, in fact, still exist. Then we had a tag team match, Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green, the Complainers, going up against Raquel and Liv. And it was a very basic tag team match here. Sonya Deville accidentally struck Chelsea. Raquel got a hot tag. Sonya tagged in Chelsea. She wasn't ready, but too bad. She got brought in the hard way. Chelsea accidentally knocked Sonya Deville off the apron, and then Raquel hit her chokeslam powerbomb, and Liv came in, hit the Oblivion, and then Raquel powerbombed Liv onto Chelsea, and they scored the 1-2-3 victory. So again, not much to say about it other than solid tag team here, Raquel and Liv. I guess they could go for the tag team titles. Let's keep that going. Not expecting either of them to win at the Chamber Premium Live event. Hamp Connell sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. Much appreciated. Says, this is what I've talked about many times. Let your main storyline have multiple segments throughout the show, not just for 20 minutes. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely with you on that. And I like when WWE does this, when they do the show long storyline. And in this case, it started with the Bloodline, Sami Zayn, Paul Heyman, Usos throughout the show. And then at the end, we'll get to that. There was one more little segment here as a little bit of a cliffhanger, I guess, or a spoiler for at least SmackDown. We had Michael Cole doing a sit-down interview with Charlotte Flair about Rhea Ripley. And Charlotte basically said that 3 years ago, Ripley chose Charlotte for WrestleMania because it was a mountain to climb. And 3 years ago, Rhea was young, green, not ready, and said that it will take more than 3 years for Rhea Ripley to get on Charlotte's level. And 3 years ago, Charlotte did not put Rhea Ripley in her place. Charlotte was just teaching her a lesson. But this time, she will put Rhea Ripley in her place for good. Or so we're led to believe. We then had our main event of the evening. And yes, this is a Coke Zero Sugar. I'm drinking that while wearing a Pepsi shirt. We had Karrion Kross versus Rey Mysterio versus Madcap Moss versus Santos Escobar. Winner gets to face Gunther on next week's SmackDown. Spoiler alert, when there's two baby faces and two heels to fight for a heel champion's title, well, that pretty much eliminates two of the options. So, yeah, I get it. You have to have some some of a mix in this match. You have to have heels and faces. Can't be all baby faces in the match. Just can't do that, right? Rey Mysterio's wife was at ringside, which is interesting. And I thought maybe this was going to be some kind of angle, but no angle. So Imperium was in the skybox watching, and pretty standard 4-way match. I mean, it was a fun match, but nothing too spectacular or anything. It was a solid TV main event. Everybody got a bit of a chance to shine. Cross was working over Rey Mysterio for a while. Madcap Moss came in, did some shoulder tackles to everybody. Rey and Santos went at it for a bit, did some lucha libre. Rey eventually hit the 619 to Cross. Scarlett grabbed Rey, preventing him from winning. Cross hit the cross hammer to Rey. Escobar ended up sending Cross to the outside of the ring, and then Moss came off the top with the flying elbow and picked up the 1-2-3 victory. Emma was out there, celebrated with Moss. And yeah, Madcap Moss versus Gunther. That is what we call a filler match. Just somebody for Gunther to beat. And then backstage, we had our final segment. Paul Heyman approaching Jimmy Uso. And Heyman had spoken to Roman Reigns. Roman has an assignment for the Usos. Next week in Montreal, he wants them to stay home. Because Heyman said this via Roman Reigns, sometimes you see things on TV that you don't see live. And that was the end of SmackDown. Now, of course, the real reason, at least Jimmy Uso is not allowed in Canada. So they have this storyline reasoning as to why he's not going to be there. Now, will Jay show up at Elimination Chamber? We'll see. Again, I don't know where things stand with him. I know Jimmy for sure cannot get in. And, this angle basically guarantees that at least for one show, neither Uso will be there. Jimmy's not going to be there. And we'll see if Jey Uso does in fact show up or not. It's just, I feel like Jay being the one to turn on Sami in Montreal is just going to get so much heat. Solo doing it, costing Sami the match, ain't going to generate as much heat. But we'll see what happens. We'll see. I mean, they might have no other choice depending on the legal situation. The game is on 100, sent in a $2 super chat, says Madcap getting his ass kicked next week by Gunther. Yes, I mean, Madcap Moss winning, highly unlikely in all likelihood. I mean, I would say there's almost 0% chance that Madcap Moss survives that match or wins that match. I mean, he'll survive, but he's definitely not going to win. And then Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat, says, how are they going to set up the WrestleMania Tag Team title match? Well, again, I think it's going to come down to Jay turning against Sami Zayn, whether it's Elimination Chamber or right after. That's going to be what really gets the heat on this match and sets it up for WrestleMania. I mean, they'll have 6 weeks. After Elimination Chamber, we still got plenty of time to build up that match. And Hamp Connell sent in the $5 super chat. Thank you, Hamp. Says, well, SmackDown was good. We're all happy, all feeling great. But Aaron, I have a quick question for you. How happy is Katie Vick? Well, it's hard to be happy when you're dead. But when she was alive, I think she was reasonably happy until she met up with Kane, and then it was all downhill from there. But yeah, SmackDown was pretty good. I was not blown away by the show, though, and I feel like it was kind of a filler show, more about building up next week, the 4-way match leading into the IC title match, the squash match with the Banger Bros leading up to the Viking Raiders match next week. Roman Reigns will be on next week. Like this week, if you skipped it, didn't miss a whole lot. Best stuff was the Bloodline segments. So I give it a B-. I actually do think it was the weakest of the 3 shows. Don't even think it was the weakest of the 3 shows this week, which doesn't happen often, but yeah. SmackDown was still pretty decent, but definitely below AEW Dynamite and Monday Night Raw this week. Not often that Raw is better than SmackDown, but I would say 100% this week Raw was the better show. So that's it for the SmackDown recap. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a like on YouTube, youtube.com/AaronRift, a special Saturday night edition of the No DQ review. Check it out on the YouTube channel. It goes live 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, Saturday night. We're not competing with the Super Bowl. I know better. Thank you all again. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. If you're a football person, I'll watch the Breaking Bad commercial a million times because that's great. And it's a lot of fun to see the guys reunited, even if it's just for a 1-minute commercial. And I suppose I'll watch some of the other commercials. But yeah, Sunday will be Sunday. And have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. And remember, say yes to NoDQ.com. I'll see you all next time.